Morning. Morning.
We should have a Lego party, Mr.
We Lego party.
Yeah, for house next semester. Everybody can bring Legos and we just play those.
Hey,
That'd be so fun.
what you got?
I think you could be
So, several of you watched Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
Yes.
It
It was actually really good.
It was, I love.
But I didn't really like the ending.
Yes.
The ending was messed up. He never knew, he like told it. He was
Oh my.
I
Yeah,
know that.
it's
He just
happily
passed out
ever
right
after.
when it happened. He didn't even know.
Happily ever after.
But we don't know that.
Yeah, I
Of course we
he
do.
passed out. No, a bomb could have gone off right afterwards.
Yeah, that
Yes,
could have been right
a
before.
terrorist attack at the U.S. Capitol. Okay.
James Stewart is the greatest actor.
All right. So let me.
I love him.
Today's Monday. Your final is when?
Friday.
Monday. Next
Monday.
Monday.
Okay.
7 days.
Which gives me, I have 3 days to teach. Okay. Now, and provide some opportunity for you. If you look on page 84 in your book, there's a matching assignment. Okay. Now, another assignment. Okay. That's okay. You see it? Is it on 84? Okay. So today I'm going to go through these different names in the matching section right here. So you've got chief of party, chief of executive, this stuff. Okay. So as I refer to this as the president wears many different hats. Okay. He's got a lot of different roles. 8 to be exact. Okay. There's going to be a section, a matching section on your test over this. Okay, on the executive branch. That's the only thing that you're going to find from the executive branch on the test is a matching section on the different hats that the president wears. And I'm going to go over those with you today. But I also have time to talk about some other stuff with the executive branch. So that's what I'm going to do today. These notes are on your module, I believe. Okay, so you don't need to know anything except the hats. Okay, for the final. And I'm not giving you a test over section 5. You understand? Okay. All right. So, but we should talk about this and learn it anyways, right? Because we're in school and we're in government class. Don't roll your eyes at me, young lady. Okay. So let's start here. Elections. We know this already, right? First Tuesday after the first Monday in November on even numbered years every 4 years. Yes? Okay. 4-year terms. And you can only serve 2, 22nd Amendment. Everybody remembers that. Okay. Nothing new there. Okay. We know about the primary. So the elections in November, they narrow from many candidates down to 1 through the primary and caucus process that we've discussed in this class before. Yes? And that usually starts in January and February of the election year. Does anybody remember which states? There's 2 states that always go first for the primaries. They're small states. Iowa and good. New England. Up in New England, small.
Rhode Island.
No.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. Okay. And so they start with those 2 states, which is good because if you're not a really rich person running for president, you don't have to have a ton of money to campaign in those states. You know what I mean? So if you were in Florida or Texas or California, you would have to have a lot of money to build a ground game. I mean, you as an individual can go to New Hampshire and spend 6 months there, okay, working, meeting people, getting your message out, getting volunteers to help you, okay? So that's how we do it, okay? And then it goes to South Carolina, then Michigan, and all the way through. Now, Kansas doesn't really take place until right after school's out, so in June. Okay, we're pretty late in the process. Okay, a lot of times by June, you already know who the nominee is going to be. You know what I mean? Especially like with President Trump, he was running for re-election. There were two people that said, well, we're going to run against Trump as Republicans and try and get the nomination, but neither one had a chance. Okay, so we knew Trump would be the nominee for the Republicans. For the Democrats, remember Biden did not do well in New Hampshire and Iowa, but South Carolina saved it. Okay. Okay, then at the convention in August, which they had to do remotely this year, okay, they do the official nomination. They write the party platform, okay? So a party plank is the party's stance on one issue. The party platform is the party's stance on all the issues. And they write that at the convention. And that usually has a little bit of the nominees. They have some control over that, whoever the nominee is going to be, okay? Then they hit the campaign. You got debates until November. The inauguration is January 20th. Used to be March 4th, but the 20th Amendment changed that, correct? Also known as what amendment? The 20th? The lame duck amendment, okay? All right, so qualifications, just like we did with the House and the Senate. Okay, you got to be 35, okay, 25 House, 30 Senate, 35 President. You must be a natural-born U.S. citizen. You have to be born in this country, okay? Now, you can be born on an American military base overseas, but as long as you're, born in America, in the United States, okay? But you can be, like John McCain was born on a military base in Panama, I believe. He ran for president, okay? And you must be living in the United States for 14 years so that you're not what we refer to as a Manchurian candidate. Okay. Well, let's say you're born in the United States and then you move to China and you live there for a long time and then you come back and decide to run for president. You have to be living here for 14 years. Okay. All right. How much does the president make? $400,000 a year. Okay. They also get a $50,000 expense allowance, money for travel, entertainment, some walking around cash. If the president wants to buy the first lady some flowers or something like that, he gets some walking around cash. Okay. They get a pension of $151,800 a year for the rest of their life. Okay. And then $150,000 a year to maintain an office. We don't want our former presidents to wind up, unemployed, homeless, living in a gutter somewhere. So we give them money, okay? And they always set up an office somewhere of the former president. Okay, so like Obama has one in Chicago, Bill Clinton's is in Manhattan, New York. Or maybe it's in Harlem. I don't know where Bush's is, probably in Dallas or something like that. That's where he lives now. Okay. And then, sometimes they do private fundraising for like a presidential library. Eisenhower has one here, and it's in Atchison, right? The Eisenhower Library, Truman Library in Independence, Missouri. Okay. So these are pretty neat, but that's all done fundraising from outside of their government salary. Former first ladies get a pension as well of $20,000 a year. Now they were not elected, so this is kind of like here's. Thank you. Okay. Now this should say Secret Service. They get Secret Service protection for 10 years after leaving office. Children are given Secret Service protection until the age of 16. Okay. If they're in office, obviously the children continue to have Secret Service while they're in office. Okay. But if they had young children like Barron Trump, I don't know how old he is, but he certainly is tall. He will get it up to 16. I don't know if you've seen this kid. I mean, he is he's like 6'9", 6'10". I mean, he towers.
Oh my! I think he's 6'9".
Yeah, I mean, he is super tall.
It's not like his parents are that tall.
Yeah, you gonna look that up? Yeah, look that up.
That is unnatural. How tall is Trump?
6'1".
He's got small hands.
Who does?
Trying.
I've never seen his hands.
Small hands? Yeah,
He's
people make fun of his
14.
hands. Huh?
He's 14. He's 14. How tall is he? I'm looking. It's not. Is Melania taller?
I don't know.
Oh, no, he towers over his mom and dad.
He's literally a giant.
Why is, can we see a picture of him?
There's not a lot, but.
I've never seen, there's just not one.
He's
It's
just like-
what
They
if they
didn't
see him and then they saw him coming off the plane and he was like,
Yes.
yeah.
The plane is transport.
Yeah.
Maybe he was on a
Oh,
set.
normally it's
I
a
like
little
the
box.
box.
It's not a box.
Huh. I'll have to look that up.
I need to see what his image is. I don't know what it looks like.
It's okay. You got your phone?
Yeah, I do.
Hey, Google it.
Not
Okay.
publicly available.
Not
We're trying
publicly.
to keep him out.
It's because people are gonna make fun of his height.
He's literally, if y'all want to see the picture.
I have a question.
Oh, wait, extend it.
Well, here's, yes, compared to his mother.
I don't know what it's called.
The government employees, they get
My
government
God.
health care, which is better than Obamacare.
It's different.
Holy cow! How old is he?
14.
He's so tall.
I
So-
don't remember exactly.
So he'll have Secret Service protection until he's 60. Okay. Now, the vice president,
Oh my God. I just thought-
makes the same as the Speaker of the House because the vice president is the president of the Senate. Thank you. Okay. Now, non-salary compensation, healthcare, retirement, we saw the retirement. The president, while president, has access to his own plane, okay? There is a presidential yacht, and of course, the Beast, which is the limo, they call it the Beast, motorcade. He also has a helicopter that's called Marine One, okay? Actually, there's two of them. One is a decoy. Marine One, if you've ever seen the president getting on and off the helicopter, there's always like a Marine there, standing there. For about 8 years, over 2 different presidents, maybe 3, we had a Bishop Carroll graduate that was that Marine that stood at the helicopter and saluted the president when he got on and off. It was a dueling.
Oh.
Yeah.
My brother's flight commander flew around the president.
Oh, like in Air Force One?
I think in the Marine one.
Oh, in the helicopter.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I
Nice.
don't know which president. But
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting to hear, like, there's a movie out called The Butler. It came out a few years ago. It's about a guy that was the butler at the White House under several different presidents. But it's interesting to hear those people that work at the White House, not political appointments, and how they describe the different presidents and their first families and so forth. It's pretty neat. Okay. Speaking of, the president has Camp David, which is, there's a mountain in Maryland called Mount St. Anyone? Mount St. Mary's. Okay. And there is Camp David, which is a presidential retreat they built in the 50s. And then on the other side of the mountain, there is a seminary. Okay.
I knew that seminary.
You know that seminary? Yeah. And we've had, it was David Darling.
Oh,
Yeah. He was at seminary there. Now, did he going to become a priest or did he?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think he might have like dropped out. Is that the right term?
for
yeah.
Huh?
I think he's like a deacon.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. But anyhow, he tells a story about how him and some other seminarians were walking. It's in the woods, in this mountain. And they went too far towards Camp David, and like Secret Service came out and said, guys, you need to go back. Yeah, it's pretty neat. But the president can hop on Marine One from the White House and fly to Camp David to get outside the Beltway. They call it the Beltway around DC. And just, if he wants to host a foreign leader or something in a quiet place, they can use it. Some presidents use Camp David more than others. Some don't use it at all. Okay. And then, of course, the White House. right? Which is a very old house, but there's 100. Yeah, couldn't sleep last night, and so I got up and I turned on the TV, and White House Down was on, and they were doing the tour guide, and this guy was like rattling off all this stuff in my notes. Okay, 132 rooms, 35 bathrooms, 6 levels in the residence. 412 doors, 147 windows, 28 fireplaces, 8 staircases, 3 elevators on 18 acres. Okay.
Every room has 2 doors.
Well, like,
That's a
No,
lot.
seven,
like,
like
I think-
stairwells.
I know that. Listen, I just want to be more.
I
be more.
feel like there's too many rooms.
Yeah, I feel
Well,
like
it
more
is
windows.
the
Yeah.
headquarters,
Like every, but I'm sure there
like the government.
I'm sure it's quite
Well,
nice.
I'm sure there was-
Do you think it's like one of the
But
biggest
it
hubs?
has a lot of
in the
rooms.
middle, you know?
Yeah, well, yeah, a lot of this space is not used. I mean, they have like, there's a Lincoln bedroom, there's the Washington's bedroom, then different offices, you've got different wings, and then, where they host events and so forth, okay? But anyhow, I went as a kid in the 8th grade, we did our field, our trip, 8th grade class, went to DC and got to do the White House tour. You can still do White House tours, but you have to like get tickets way ahead of time. And I think you've got to go through your member of Congress to get tickets to do a White House tour. Since 9/11, it's been a lot more restricted. Thank you. This is for me. What? No. Subbing
For everyone.
trail.
Why? How easy?
Huh?
Why?
Why am I subbing?
Probably not that here.
Probably not.
Because I'm a department chair and I have 2 plan periods, so they like to take one of my plan periods.
2?
I have third and 6th off this semester, 3rd and 7th next semester.
Oh,
I have a lot of extra work to do.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But yeah, I'll help out. Okay, guys, variety of facilities for the residents, a tennis court, jogging track, swimming pool, movie theater. Nixon put in the bowling lane. Obama put in a basketball court. When W. Bush was president, he put in a Little League baseball field because he's a baseball guy. They hold different events there. Eisenhower was a big golfer.
Oh my God.
Loved to golf. So he put in a chipping and putting green.
Oh, that's his word.
Yeah. So that's kind of nice. They lived there for 4 years and sometimes 8. Okay. So we take care of it. All right. Now we get to talk about the hats of the president. Okay. And so this is where you kind of got to pay attention. Not that you weren't paying attention.
I thought that was
Yeah, it is interesting. All of this is relatively. All right. Let's help you out. Devin McCarthy.
Not yourself.
Okay. So we'll start with chief of state. Now, another way of saying this would be head of state. Okay, but we're going to stick with chief on all of these. Okay. Chief of state. So when we talk about the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, or the State Department, all right, they deal with diplomatic affairs. Okay, so like when you go meet with the president of Japan, okay, or you're going to maybe meet the emperor, or you're going to meet the Queen of England, there are protocols, guys, right? There's certain things you should do and say and not do and say because of the culture, yes? So the State Department has people that know the other people's culture and what the protocols are. Okay, it's like if you meet the Queen of England, you're not supposed to go up and give her a big hug, like Michelle Obama did. Now, I don't think the Queen was upset about it. You know what I mean? It's fine. It's not a big deal. But there's certain protocols, okay? And it was nice that Michelle Obama gave her a big hug. We're huggers in this country. You know what I mean? Yeah. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, maybe should screw it. I'm gonna hug the queen.
I feel like that's something Michelle Obama would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She would probably brief us on how to like hurt Stanley, bow your head. She was like, screw that.
Yeah, how many people can say they hugged the queen?
Bring it in.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
Not a big deal. But anyhow, so when we talk about the State Department and head of state, okay, he's the head of state. So remember when we talked about parliamentary systems, the head of state and the chief executive are two different people. In our system, it's the same person, okay? So this is the leader, the ceremonial head of the country, okay? So here's a good example where Bush, Clinton, and Bush 41 attend the funeral of Pope John Paul II. They're representing our country, okay, as presidents. Yes? Okay. So we have diplomat down here, but this is kind of like your head of state, okay, your ceremonial leader. Good? All right, chief executive. Now, this is probably the most important of his roles, okay, because this is his constitutional duties, right? When we talk about Article 2 of the Constitution, it discusses the powers of the executive branch, and the head of the executive branch is the president. He runs the day-to-day affairs of the country. If you did not hear on the news, last night, UPS and FedEx started shipping 3 million doses of the vaccine, okay? UPS is going to cover the East Coast, and FedEx is going to cover the West Coast. I don't know about us in the middle. So flights are going out and shipping trucks and everything going out, okay? That's the executive branch carrying out, its duties, the day-to-day affairs, okay? The power to execute the policies of Congress, the laws they pass, and execute powers with other countries, okay? So one of the roles that the president has constitutionally, so when you start thinking, what are the roles of the president constitutionally, is to appoint federal judges, right? Supreme Court justices, enforcing welfare policy, okay? Or carrying out the administration of the vaccine for the country, okay? Our government paid these companies, gave them billions of dollars to help develop these vaccines, okay? And I think they're going out free of charge. Am I wrong there? Has anybody heard? I mean, I don't think they're charging people to get it.
Like the U.S. just bought them, so they're the ones.
Right, we paid for it. I guess we all paid for it. Actually, your grandchildren paid for it, but it's okay. We want grandchildren, so they'll be okay with us paying for that, I think. Yeah.
Is the vaccine a government conspiracy? No, we can't do
A
that.
conspiracy? I don't think so.
No, I can't.
Now, look, people have their own views of vaccines, and that's not a Pandora's box we are going to open. But I tell you what, the technology they use to make the Pfizer vaccine is incredible. It's different than any other vaccine we've ever had before. You guys read about this at all? It's worth talking about, science in government class. Okay, so guys, you've studied science and DNA and stuff like that. So normally when you do a vaccine, you take the virus, you break it apart. They spin it, they break it apart, and then they give you little pieces of that, not together, but broken apart. Then your body finds reaction to that, and it fights those little things that are not as dangerous to you. Yes, because they're not combined. This is totally different. They're not putting any of the virus in you. They have created a way to teach your DNA. Once they put this in you, your DNA is going to create this substance that mimics the virus. And then your body's going to create antibodies towards this thing that your body creates. It's
That's
really cool.
It's truly a virus, though.
Huh?
No, to me it's not.
It's not a virus. My doctor next door explained this to me the other day, which made me feel a lot better about taking this vaccine. Now, with any vaccine, guys, they have to put certain stuff in there that's, that some people that are anti-vaxxers are worried about. I get that, okay? But that's how they get it into the system, and it's very smart technology. This is why smart people are important. Yes?
my question was like, so it makes your body create a virus.
Not a virus.
No, create antibodies.
Well, it creates something that mimics the virus, and then the antibodies are created by attacking what it thinks is a virus. There's like these messenger things.
Yeah, I know.
You guys know what they're called?
RNA.
Yeah, the RNA.
Messenger.
Okay, messenger. Yeah,
mRNA.
Yeah.
yeah. It's. I mean, it's crazy. You know what I mean? It's awesome. Okay. So, I mean, I'll take it if it's offered to me.
When is it gonna come
I
out?
mean, I don't take the flu vaccine, but I'll take this one. I'm not afraid of it.
Are you afraid of the flu shot?
And I'm a pretty conspiratorial guy, you know what I mean?
I haven't been.
I gotta get one. Do you get sick when you get a flu shot?
I've never taken it.
You've never?
Never taken the
Why
flu shot.
not?
I don't want it.
That sounds so cool.
Okay.
I mean,
Maybe when I get older.
So-
Okay. All right, so you got this? Executing the law, carrying out the law, chief executive. Chief administrator. Okay. The largest employer in the United States of America is the executive branch of the United States government. Has more employees than Walmart or any other large corporation. There are about 3 million people that work in the federal government. Most of them work in the executive branch. Okay. So the president is the chief administrator. So this is really sets up well for Trump because he's a business owner. He's got people that work for him. So he's the minister. He's the boss. And he used to have the show The Apprentice, and he would fire people. Okay, which he's done as president as well, like the head of the FBI and so forth. Okay, the boss over a almost $5 trillion budget. I guess Trump's budget for 2020 is going to be closer to 7 trillion because of COVID. Okay. So he gets to oversee that. Okay. So little things. Okay. Now this is Secretary of Defense. Okay. Now, what's the difference between appointing Secretary of Defense and appointing a Supreme Court justice? Once he, go ahead. Well, he works for the president. Appointing the Supreme Court justice, once he appoints them and they're confirmed, the president has no control over them, as was evidenced on Friday when the Supreme Court refused to hear the Texas lawsuit that was joined by 20 other states, refused to hear that case because they said they had no standing. Texas didn't have any standing to sue about the elections in those 4 other states. That's what 7 of the 9 justices said. You got to have 4 of the 9 justices to agree to take a case. None of the 3 that Trump appointed voted to take the case. Okay, it was Alito and Thomas. Okay, Justice Thomas. So there's a few last-ditch efforts here. The Electoral College is supposed to vote today. You know, the 6 people that we sent from Kansas, they're supposed to vote today. Okay, so I don't see anything stopping that. Yes.
What if we have a bad faith election?
Well, what does that mean? A bad faith election?
Like electors elect for things that their or their state does not want them to.
They can do that.
What if that
It's happened 10 times. The other thing is that some states allow the state legislatures to redirect their electors. But I don't think that's going to happen. Because in all those, and it could happen in Georgia, but Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, state legislature in Wisconsin is Republican. Michigan is Democrat. So, I mean, you could conceivably see the state legislature in Georgia and Wisconsin direct the electors to vote for Trump. I don't think that's going to happen. Okay. So also maintaining, government employee overtime rules. He's the boss. Okay. So think of boss, administrator. Okay. Some of you guys might go to college and study business. You have business administration. Or, and who do we call our principals? We call them the administration. They're the bosses. Okay. All right, chief diplomat. This is easy, right? Diplomacy, guys, is the art of negotiation. Okay. And so the president is the chief architect of our diplomacy or foreign policy. Okay. So, guys, like President Trump or not, we have seen now 4 Middle East countries, Muslim majority countries, normalize relations with Israel, an arch enemy of the Muslim world. Okay, and before President Trump leaves office, we may see 2 more. Okay, you talk about peace in the Middle East. Okay, I've always been one to say, it's a fruitless effort trying to get peace in the Middle East. Okay, but the biggest source of consternation in the Middle East is Israel, the Jews. Okay, and if some of these Muslim countries decide to normalize relations and trade with Israel, that leads to a better chance of peace between nations there. Okay, and I know the media doesn't really give President Trump any credit, but I think one of his lasting legacies will be some of the improvement in the Middle East. Okay. So working with Afghan leaders to hunt terrorists, this sort of thing, he's the diplomat. Okay. That's pretty easy to understand, yes, I think. Okay. This one's easy too. Commander-in-chief, not commander-in-chief, commander-in-chief. Okay. And he is the head of the armed forces. Now I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead a little bit and talk about some things with this. Okay. The president can use the armed forces anytime he wants, anywhere he wants, without approval from Congress. This gives the president flexibility to act. Okay. Trump has used this a couple of times. Okay. But I want to talk about the first time it was used, set the precedent. We got to go back to Thomas Jefferson, our 3rd president in 1803. We're a brand new country, 1803. And we are starting to trade. What are our cash crops in America? Tobacco and cotton. Okay. And so we are exporting those goods across the world. And a lot of the population is easily accessible through the Mediterranean Sea. So our cargo ships were heading across the Atlantic and through the Straits of Gibraltar. And when they got into the Mediterranean, they were being attacked by pirates. Okay, and being held. And you would have to pay a bounty to pass. Okay, and who were these pirates? Well, these pirates were out of Libya. Okay, and they were Muslims. And they called them the Barbary pirates. And they took, because we refused to pay the bounty, they took some of our sailors, our citizens, as hostages and held them in Tripoli, the capital of Libya. Jefferson's, and yes, the British paid the bounty, French paid the bounty, the Spanish paid the bounty, and Jefferson said, we're not paying the bounty. And so he sent over a couple of U.S. Navy warships, okay, in the Mediterranean. And they tried to stop our ships, and we went to war with the Barbary pirates. Did Jefferson ask Congress if he could do that? Nope, he just did it on his own. Okay, setting the precedent, allowing the president to use the armed forces. Okay, now, the guys that got off the ships to get our prisoners in Tripoli, we're going to call those guys not sailors, but Marines. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. That's where the Marine hit battle song comes from the Marines here in 1803. Good story? Good story. Yes. You may have heard it before. Okay, so Jefferson set the precedent here. Okay, now, in 1973, we were just getting out of what war? History students?
You know,
Vietnam, okay? Now, Vietnam to that point was the longest war in American history. Okay? It lasted, basically our involvement lasted from 1964 to 1975. 11 years. Okay? Congress, we never declared war in Vietnam. And this war just kept going on and on and on. So Congress passed the War Powers Act of 1973. That said, the president can use troops anywhere he wants for 60 days. If Congress does not approve of this action, he's got 30 days to bring him home. So essentially, the president has 90 days to use the armed forces anywhere he wants. And guys, pretty much every president since the War Powers Act of 1973 has used that power. When we went to Iraq in 2000 or in 1990, Congress approved. When we went to Afghanistan in 2001, Congress approved. They didn't declare war, but they approved of the military action. In 2003, when we went to Iraq, Congress approved. Okay. So the president had the authority to go beyond 90 days or 60 days. Yes? Okay. All right. Chief legislator. And this will make sense to you guys, especially just coming off what we just do in the legislative branch. Okay. The president every January gives the State of the Union address, right? If the president is very popular, like take a Reagan, okay, Congress is going to listen to the president because they fear the president because the president is so popular, they're going to follow his lead. If the president comes in a very close election or a disputed election or under Russian collusion thoughts, okay, it also depends on who controls Congress. Is it the same party as the president or not? You know what I mean? But the president kind of leads the way, sets the agenda. So when Congress comes into office, they're only in a few days, maybe 2 weeks before the president will give his address. They kind of wait on him to lead, okay, especially if he's popular. If he's not, his power is not as important. But again, president has veto power, yes? So they have to listen to the president. Okay, the Defense Authorization Act that Congress passed last week, President Trump said he's vetoing it. Okay, his tweet said, and I don't know the details of it, but his tweet said the biggest beneficiary of the Defense Authorization Act is China. I'm vetoing it. Okay.
Why? What does it do?
Dude, you got to look it up. Guys, with this legislation, they put all kinds of crap in there. You know what I'm saying? This is probably, I don't know, a $500 billion bill. And they probably throw all kinds of stuff in there. I don't know what's all in the Defense Authorization Act. Okay? But you got to look it up. All right? And see who voted for it. Did our congressman vote for it? I don't know. I'm busy. Okay. Example, pressuring congressmen to vote for a bill. So, yeah, this is one of the things the president can do. Now, not most people, have any of you guys ever been called by the president of the United States? Gotten a phone call from the president? I haven't either. Okay, so you're a sitting member of Congress. Your name's Ron Estes. You represent the 4th District of Kansas. You're sitting in your office one day, and your secretary, or excuse me, your administrative assistant calls in and says, Mr. Estes, Representative Estes, the President of the United States is on the phone and would like to talk to you. What? The President of the United States is on the phone and wants to talk to me. Not many people ever get that phone call. You know what I mean? So even if you are a member of Congress, the President of the United States is on the phone, wants to talk to you. Hey, Congressman Estes, the Queen of England's coming in this weekend for a state dinner. We're holding a big celebration. We'd like to know if you and your wife would like to attend and maybe sit at the head table with the First Lady and I. Representative Estes is like, Mr. President, that sounds fabulous. Thank you. So Friday night, they go to the state dinner. Okay, Monday morning, phone rings again. It's the President of the United States. Hey, Ron, how did you enjoy your time? Get to meet the Queen and everything? Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Hey, you know that bill that's coming up for a vote? Tomorrow, I could really use your support on that. Using the power of the office to get members of Congress to vote with you. Or, hey, I know you have a bill that's coming up for a vote soon. I'll throw my support behind your bill if you help me out with this bill. That sort of thing. Okay. Chief legislator. He does have some power there. Okay. Chief citizen. Now this one's kind of gray. It's hard to really define. Okay. But represents all citizens in the public interest. What's different about this than chief of state? Okay, so this is more in an unofficial capacity, chief citizen. Okay, so using the president to promote certain things, like going to lay the wreath, on September 11th, or on Pearl Harbor Day, December 7th, doing something like that. Sometimes it's the first family. Does anybody know what they called the Kennedy family while they were in the White House? They called it they had a name for it. Camelot. You heard of Camelot? Yeah, it's like this, it's this wonderful, like, fairy tale presidency, the Kennedy family. Okay. The media loved it. Okay. But anyhow, Jackie Kennedy was a rock star. I mean, everybody loved the first lady, and she was a trendsetter. She wore these pillbox hats and, stuff like this. And so all of a sudden, all these women are wearing fashion like the first lady. You saw this a little bit with, I hesitate to throw this out there. She didn't become first lady, but Sarah Palin. You guys know who that is? She was the vice presidential running mate with John McCain, and she was kind of pretty, and she had a cool hairdo. And all of a sudden, all these people around the country are doing their hair like Sarah Palin. Okay, just somebody that representing the country as a citizen of the country. Okay, and while I talk about that as a citizen of this country, what's important about when we talk about the commander in chief, the president of the United States being in charge of the military, he's a civilian. He doesn't wear a military uniform. Our president, our commander in chief, wears a suit, not a military uniform. The guy in charge of the military. Okay, that's important. All right, and then last is easy to recognize is head of party. Okay, chief of party. Okay, so when we talked about the political parties, we talked about the head of the DNC, the head of the RNC. Okay, the chair of the RNC cedes their power to the president, Trump, right now, and Tom Perez of the DNC will cede his power to Biden when he becomes president. Okay. And then the president, if he's popular, can go out and campaign for members of Congress that are running for re-election. So Trump did a rally in Georgia last weekend, not this past weekend, the previous weekend. Wouldn't be surprised if he does another one before help those two senators that are running, okay, in Georgia. If you're not popular, congressional candidates might be, hey, thanks for the offer, but no thanks. And I remember there was a guy named Jim Ryan. Any track stars in here? Track people? Jim Ryan was the first high schooler to do the 4-minute mile. Okay. He ran for Congress up in, I think, the 3rd district. And in 2008, he was running for re-election, and Bush came in and campaigned for him. Maybe it was 2006. And at that point, Bush was really unpopular, and Jim Ryan lost. So sometimes you don't want the president to come in. All right, hey, you guys can do that homework. I won't make it due till like Wednesday, but, and I'll figure out how to turn it in. I'll probably just do a text, and you can number 1 to 16 and put your answers in. Okay? Good job. Watch tomorrow. I'll have more good stuff.